Hello, everybody. Welcome to tonight's You Ask, We Answer, where we will be talking about biology. We're going to give a couple minutes for some more people to join, so feel free, type some questions in that Q&A function, and we'll get started here in just a couple minutes. Thank you so much for being here. Hello, welcome to anybody joining for tonight's You Ask, We Answer. We'll get started here in just about a minute or so. So feel free to type some questions into that Q&A function, and we'll get started here in just a moment. Thanks again. Hello, welcome. We'll be getting started here in just a moment, so feel free to type those questions in the Q&A, and we'll get started here in just a second. Alrighty, so let's get started. We're going to start off here with a brief introduction. My name is Mary Gerhardstein. I'm an assistant director of admission here at PLU. So I work with prospective students doing that college search, and I often get some wonderful questions about biology. So that is why I am here. We also have two lovely panelists joining us. So for our professor, if you could please share your name, how long you've been at PLU, maybe some of the classes that you taught, and why you chose to teach here at PLU. And for our student, also your name, what year you are, maybe where you're from, and why you made the choice to attend PLU. So feel free, whoever would like to get started first.
So my name is Matt Smith. This is my 23rd year at PLU. I'm an associate professor of biology and also currently chair of the department. And some of the classes that I teach, I'm by training a physiologist. So I teach anatomy and physiology. I teach in our introductory core, the first class, which is called Molecules, Cells, and Organisms. I also teach neurobiology and human physiology, and one of my favorite classes to teach, which I've taught probably about 4 times now, is biology of reproduction.
Fantastic.
Hi everyone, I'm Daniel Benson. I'm a fourth year student here at PLU, double majoring in biology and English. I'm originally from Denver, Colorado, and I have loved my time here at PLU, so I'm excited to answer questions.
Fantastic. Dr. Smith, would you like to give just an overview of our biology program for prospective students, kind of what those classes generally look like and the structure of that program?
I would be happy to. So I'm going to share my screen.
Perfect.
I have a PowerPoint put together. Everybody see that? So again, my name is Matt Smith, chair of biology. And first thing I wanted to mention is that the biology department offers 2 degrees, a Bachelor of Science and a Bachelor of Arts, as well as a minor. And I would say probably about 75 to 80% of our students get a BS in biology. Thinking about a Bachelor of Arts, sometimes that's coupled, for example, with a music degree. It could be coupled to, let's say, an individual is interested in science writing. It might be coupled to a BA in English. The other thing is that we're closely associated with the Pre-Health Sciences Advising team. And so you can see some of the topics, or I should say, professional schools that a lot of our students are interested in. And so we often have a good advising team that can meet with students and help them on their pathway towards being accepted to one of these professional schools. just to kind of give you an idea of the difference between, hopefully you can see this, but this was a figure that one of my colleagues put together to kind of give an idea of how the biology program requirements are put together. So the first thing I'll say, if you go down to the bottom at the roots, kind of the foundation of the biology degree is taking what is biology 225 and 226. So 225 kind of gives you an overview of the small biology, and 226 is more the larger biology, looking, for example, at the difference between populations, evolution, ecology. And then students also have to take genetics. So for both the BA and the BS, they have to take both 225, 226, and genetics. And then after that, it's a little bit different. So for BS students, they have to take 7 upper division courses. And one of those courses has to fit under the requirement that you can see what is called ecology and evolution. Another one under organism structure and function, another one that's cellular and molecular nature. And so you can see, it might be tough to read these, but some of the courses, for example, under cellular and molecular are neurobiology, virology, immunology. Under organism structure and function, we have classes biology, reproduction, mammalian physiology, and you can see some of the courses under ecology and evolution. Once you meet those requirements, then it's really up to you on what other courses you want to take to meet. In the BS, you have to have 7 upper division courses, and in the BA, you only need 5. And then finally, all students complete what is called the capstone seminar, where you have the opportunity to research a particular topic and write both a paper on that and also give an oral presentation. Then if you look kind of down at the bottom here, again, it might be difficult to read, but both the BA and BS have to take a math course. And also they have to take chemistry, and it's a little bit different. So with the BA, all you need is a semester of general chemistry, but for the BS, you need a full year of general chemistry and a semester of organic chemistry. And then for the BS, you need a full year of physics, but we do recommend to the BA students that they take a year of physics as well. So that's kind of an overview. Really, it's a difference between number of upper division courses that you have to take that differentiates between a BA and BS, and also the number of supporting courses that you have to take. So one of the questions that I've often asked is what does, and it's kind of busy here, but what does a first-year student's typical schedule look like? So I looked at a few students and I came up with showing you this one. So you can see here in their first semester, this student took our introductory biology course, so molecules, cells, and organisms, which also contains a lab. They also were enlisted in a writing seminar, enrolled in a writing seminar, a religion course, which meets some of the gen ed requirements. And then all students are required to take a transition course called Plus 100 that just helps them get used to the transition from high school to the college or university. And then the next group here of classes is what they would take typically in their spring semester. And you can see here, they're taking now the second part of that introductory course sequence, and then they have a few other courses that they have to take that are related to gen ed requirements. Now, I've also put together real quickly what a transfer student's typical schedule might look like. And that's a little difficult. It can be quite diverse. And the reason for that is that if you obtain, or I should say, take the correct courses at a community college, for example, then you can go directly into upper division courses. Some of our students, though, have to start out with taking biology 225. So if you ever have any questions about what courses you should take at the community college, feel free to reach out to me because it's at the community college, there's a number of different biology courses that you can take, and it's very important that you take the ones that are geared towards biology majors. But in this case, you can see this student came in having already met the introductory core, and so they got started with genetics. They also had taken at the community college a year of general chemistry. So they were able to move into organic chemistry. And then you can see here, now they've decided because they want to become a physician. And most medical schools require a full year of organic chemistry. So here they're taking marine biology, which would satisfy the distribution requirement of ecology of evolution. And they're also here taking organic chemistry. And then, pardon me, you can also see they're taking a course that is required for their gen ed requirements. So I think what's important to understand about PLU is that our faculty are first and foremost teachers. We came here to teach, and we love to teach. We love to interact with students. So you can see in these pictures, three of my colleagues. This is Dr. Julie Smith, this is Amy Sigismund, and this is Dr. Jacob Egge. And you can see how much they love interacting with students. Again, we are here first and foremost to be teachers, and we came here because we love to interact with students. Our faculty are also productive scholars and mentors. Here is an example. This is Dr. Michael Behrens, who is a marine biologist, and he's working with some research students on some projects in the Puget Sound. And then in this photo here is Dr. Shannon Seidel, and she does a lot of work on understanding biology education, what techniques, what strategies are best for students to learn the material. And then our faculty, as I mentioned, are committed to undergraduate education. Here are two of my colleagues, Amy Sigismund and Shannon Seidel, have actually published papers in peer review journals that have to do with how students learn and how they can best learn. The other thing that I want to mention about PLU is that our class sizes are very, very small. So the introductory courses that I talked about, the most students you'll see in those courses are 48 students. And associated with those, that lecture size of 48 is 2 labs of 24 students each. And no grad students teach those courses. The instructor, the professor, teaches both the lab and the lectures. What's really nice, though, and I'll talk about this a little bit later, is that we have students that can sign up to be teaching assistants, and they help out with the professor in the classroom. They're not teaching the class, they're just helping out. So I have a student right now that is working with me and is just doing a wonderful job of interacting with the students, asking them questions. So those are opportunities that you can have if you come to PLU, especially if you're interested maybe in teaching in the future. Most of our upper division courses are less than 24 students. We have some that are 15. We currently have a few that have 11 students in them. Faculty engage our students in their own learning. So one of the things that we really work on is active learning. So we just don't sit up there lecturing the entire time. We'll lecture for a little bit and then get the students involved in different worksheets, working as groups, case studies to better understand the material that they're covering. And you can see here we're committed to students learning how to be engaged citizens, how to gain scientific skills, scientific content, etc. One of the things I'll mention is that we really believe that hands-on experiences are important, so that most of our courses have labs associated with them. They get a chance to be able to learn how to, for example, use a pipette min, to be able to measure out very, very small liquids and to be able to dispense those. And those come very handy when one eventually applies for jobs, for example, in a research lab. Science is also taught here in a liberal arts context. And I think a liberal arts college plays a very important role in science education for a number of reasons. First, it allows students to understand scientific problems and processes within a larger context of the humanities and the arts. I think it also helps to apply sciences, to real-world problems that require critical thinking that develops through one's liberal arts education. So science at a liberal arts college, I think, is very, very important. You learn a lot of different skills, how to write effectively, how to present verbally, and also how to think critically. So there are student opportunities both on and off campus. There are several faculty members that are engaged with students in their research. So they get them involved either during the academic year or during the summer. We also have a number of students that apply to internships and research experiences at other universities, and they're pretty successful at getting those appointments. And as I mentioned, there are student opportunities to work in the biology department. For example, we have students that help to prep for the various teaching labs that we offer each week. As I mentioned, they can also be teaching assistants where they help the professor during lab. And as you can see in this bottom picture to the left, we also hire students to help out with the plants in the greenhouse. And maybe Daniel will have a time to talk about this, but he has served in the last 2 years as an academic peer tutor. There are also student opportunities to study away. And so these are some of the places that our students have studied in the past: Namibia, Trinidad and Tobago, Norway, and the Bahamas. So I'll talk specifically about the Bahamas. My colleague, Dr. Michael Behrens, offers a course every other year in the Bahamas titled Tropical Marine Ecology. And it's quite a popular course for our students. There is both opportunities during J term and also during the semester. So you could study an entire semester. For example, at Namibia, or in the example of Bahamas, it's just over the month of January. And you could imagine how nice it would be in the Bahamas instead of the cold weather in Washington State or other areas that you might live. Some of the student outcomes, our students go on to work in laboratories and industry. They apply to graduate schools, professional schools, for example, med school. Some of them go on to be teachers, K through 12 education. They might decide after being a teaching assistant that they want to go off to universities and be a professor. And we also have students that work in nonprofits and also government agencies, such as Department of Fish and Wildlife. And just to give you kind of a little bit of an idea, we need to update our data a little bit, but acceptance rates, when we looked at 2008 to 2018, about 79% of our students got into medical school. National average is about 40 to 45%. And in dental school, roughly about the same, again, about double that, almost double that of what you see in, nationally. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you have. And Daniel has kind of a good student perspective, and so you can ask him any questions as well.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for giving that overview. We definitely have quite a few questions in the Q&A, and anybody who's watching, feel free to continue to add questions. We'll be going over those throughout the evening. One of the first questions is, could you double major with biology? Daniel, I know you said that you are double majoring. Would you be able to speak a little bit on how that works, and kind of your experience being a double major?
Yeah, no, absolutely. That is correct. I am double majoring and then some. I I do have the privilege of having an extra year. My first year here on campus was during COVID, and PLU was kind enough to offer anyone that year an extra year tuition free. Unfortunately, is not something available for everybody. But that being said, I think I am squarely in the majority of people who, if they are not double majoring in something, they have at least one minor. Like I said, I kind of split my time between biology and the humanities. Right now, that's biology and English, although I have interests in other groups as well. I have also been able to do a little bit of music. That's just been a credit of piano lessons every semester, nothing really much more than that. but it happens all the time. Like, I think it's much rarer to find someone who is just majoring in biology than it is to find people who have either a double major in chemistry, or a minor in chemistry, or majors and minors across the humanities and sciences as well. So it's extremely common, extremely easy to kind of, well, I wouldn't say easy, you have to work a lot, but faculty are incredibly willing to work with you to figure out how, to structure your classes so that you can graduate with both of those degrees. So it's a very, very common thing to do and highly encouraged across the board.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your experience. I know even from prospective students, there's a lot who are really kind of torn between choosing more than one. And it's always nice to be able to say, like, no, you can do and you can do both. There's many opportunities to do exactly what you love, either as a major or a minor, or even just taking a few classes. So that way you can really just expand that worldview. So really glad to hear that that's your experience as well. A little bit of a question about the structure of classes. There's a few questions regarding tests and labs and kind of how you're academically scored in some way, right? So how does the biology department kind of think about tests and projects or labs?
Do you want to answer that, Daniel, just from the student perspective? We have exams. We also have a number of assignments, lab assignments. We often what we refer to as lab reports. But so there's a lot that goes into one's grade, not just exams.
Yeah, I'd second that. I don't think I've had a class that doesn't have multiple categories of assignments. Tests are always a decent percentage, at least in the science courses that I've taken. They take up kind of around 50% of our grade, usually collectively between like unit tests and the final. But that's always interspersed with, a lot of classes, especially in chemistry, will have like homework sets or homework problems that you have to do and turn in. Additionally, lab reports that you do, which are just kind of worksheets that you do based off of the lab material. It's not, it kind of sounds scary, but it's not really too bad. We do have formal lab reports, which are written, which are kind of a bigger effort, but really set you up well for learning how to write science writing, which is a very different skill from other kinds of writing. And then every professor is a little bit different with kind of the other sorts of assignments that they have. There's been lots of professors who've had fairly creative assignments that they've kind of sprinkled in there, which have been really fun. So, but I'd say as a rule, it's pretty diverse as far as the kinds of assignments we're doing and the day-to-day work that we have to do for our classes.
That's great. Especially as someone who learns a lot of different ways, yeah, for those students, you get many opportunities to test that knowledge. So that's really wonderful. We have answered this one. Okay. Yeah, somebody asked, what are the labs like? I think kind of to add on to that, how often per week are they? What's the length? Yeah, how many are there? That sort of thing.
So typically with each of our science courses, and I'll talk specifically about biology, there's a lab associated with it, and you meet once a week. And typically for anywhere between 3 and 3.5 hours. Just depends on, for example, something like marine biology, because you have to oftentimes travel out to the Puget Sound, you need a little extra time. But the course that I teach right now, molecules, cells, and organisms, the labs are about 2 hours and 50 minutes, so roughly 3 hours. Students get to learn a lot of different techniques in the lab. For example, I mentioned already the pipetting, which I think is very important. They also learn how to separate DNA on what is called gel electrophoresis. I had a group of students that recently learned also how to separate proteins using what is called gel electrophoresis. So they get the opportunity to learn a lot of different methods. The other thing that's nice is once they learn a particular method, then we have them design their own experiment, and then collect data on that experiment and then analyze it. And so my students today actually learned how to record oxygen consumption of shore crabs to determine what's called their metabolic rate. And then they're designing an experiment for next week that they're going to be using the same equipment and measuring, again, oxygen consumption to determine the metabolic rate under a different variable. So for example, you might want to look at what effect temperature has on the metabolic rate of shore crabs, or you might want to look at if there's a difference between male and female shore crabs on the metabolic rate. So we often give students a lot of opportunities to design their own experiments and also be able to present that data in different forms. So we have, for example, a project where they have the opportunity to put together a poster, one way of presenting data. And at the end of the semester, they also have an opportunity to give an oral presentation. So I think, again, the importance of learning science in the liberal arts institution is very important because you get to learn a lot of those soft skills, being able to present research under different methods.
That's really amazing. Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of preparation for kind of that next step for students after their time at PLU, but also even for that next course in the sequence of giving the independence to learn these really amazing skills. Kind of jumping off of that, there was a question from registration of how does the biology program prepare for students going into the workforce after they graduate? So I think this is kind of a multifaceted question. One of kind of what do those jobs look like with a BS in biology or a BA in biology, but also kind of how are they able to prepare even for maybe extra schooling or kind of that next step?
So again, thinking about what I've already mentioned is that in a liberal arts institution, you're learning a lot of different skills that are going to make you successful in the workplace. Again, being able to communicate, being able to think critically are so important in the workplace. And I think our students are very successful at that. I think also the fact that we have very small classes and we have many of our classes at which there's labs associated with them, they get a lot of hands-on experience. So they go into the workforce being able to understand how to do, for example, gel electrophoresis or SDS page, which allows you to separate proteins. So I think the benefits of PLU education is that a lot of hands-on experience, a lot of liberal arts skills are going to prepare you well for the workforce.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay. One of the Q&A questions was, what internships and jobs are most commonly desired? If you happen to know from your graduating students.
I think a lot depends on the interests of the students.
Yeah.
You know, I'm thinking about internships is one that they really enjoy is being able to work at Fred Hutchinson Cancer Research Center. And there's actually internships that are set aside for PLU students. So I think that's very helpful. They're competitive, but, and I can think of other places where there's, for example, what we call REU, research experiences for undergraduates that are done at major universities. Again, you have to apply for, but they're competitive. But I think our students do pretty well at getting accepted to those programs. So those are really again, I think a lot depends on what the student is interested in. Daniel, you might want to talk about kind of your interests in your internship and how you're kind of coupling, right, science to the humanities.
Yeah, no. I've done a couple of internships at this point. My sophomore year, the summer after my sophomore year, I did one of PLU's undergraduate research projects. That was actually in organic chemistry with Dr. Yakulis. And we were looking at essentially building these heavy metal ion probes for visualizing RNA in cells, which is really cool. I discovered that like that kind of research isn't for me, but Dr. Yakelis was building this project across 3 different universities and got funded by the MJ Murdoch Charitable Trust, which is a huge deal. And so there was a lot of money going into this, and I got to get that experience of being in a real lab, doing this kind of synthesis work, and then seeing the results pay off. I know that project is still going, and several other people have worked on that, and they were able to get a lot farther than we could in that initial summer. But that gave me a very tangible idea of what science research actually looks like. Again, I decided that wasn't for me, but I know several people who have done these research experiences and have absolutely loved it. Um, this last summer, I did the what's called the Seed Internship Program, which is kind of a company outside of PLU, but is based in Tacoma, and they work with the different universities in the kind of the Seattle Tacoma area, and they directly partner students from these universities with businesses in all sorts of different kind of fields. I mean, there are people in business and accounting and like PR, those kinds of things. I was placed in multi-care because I had expressed interest. I'm pre-med. That's my end goal, is becoming a physician. I had expressed interest in knowing a little bit more about the healthcare system as a whole. And so they paired me with the pediatric surgery group at Mary Bridge Hospital. I was doing marketing research, which again was not quite my thing, but it was still a valuable experience because I had to kind of compile this list of all these pediatric clinics and really the Puget Sound area, and then one by one kind of cold call them and be like, "Hey, have you heard of the pediatric surgery services that we have here at Mary Bridge?" So it's not, quite as like sciency of an experience, but still an incredibly valuable skill set for someone like me who I intend to be working with people, in my career. And who knows, at one point I may have to market myself as a physician in order to kind of build a sustainable practice. Not only that, it gave me the opportunity to work with surgeons and actually shadow them several times, which was invaluable experience for me. Currently, I am on a crazy mission to do a Wong Center research grant. I just came back from studying abroad in Oaxaca, Mexico, which was a life-changing experience. Um, I had the opportunity to do a little internship at what's called La Clínica del Pueblo, which is a small nonprofit hospital in the outskirts of Oaxaca City. And so I spent a month there, and I was able to just observe the doctors and what they did and how they gave treatment to the people of this community who are living in poverty. And it was, it's hard to describe how much of an impression that made on me. Just the kind of values that they have in their care. So I was so kind of moved by this experience that I had that I came back and I was like, I want to return first of all, and I want to ask these people, okay, what goes into these values, as far as being a medical provider in this kind of space in this country. And so I wrote up a grant application. The Wong Center has money set aside for students to return, to different places after they studied abroad with all sorts of different questions that they have. I think a lot of people do more humanities focused research in that scenario, but I know it's not explicitly set aside for humanities research. And so I've been kind of talking with faculty across, both of these disciplines, saying how do I pull off a project like this? I know nothing about humanities research, but it's been a testament to me of the quality of our faculty and how willing they are to work with students that every single one of them, and I've probably talked to like 6 or 8 different professors, have been, this sounds like a great idea. Absolutely. Here's what I can do to help. Here are my ideas, and so I'm still waiting to hear back to see if I've received that grant, but hopefully, if I do, I'll be able to return and do a very tailored, very kind of niche project, which I don't know if many people would get that kind of opportunity at other schools. So that's kind of been my internship experience, and I will say that all of them have been worthwhile in their own rights, even if I haven't been, I haven't jumped on them like this is my career. So yeah.
Thanks
Yeah,
for providing
that's
that
amazing.
overview. That was wonderful.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Um, okay. We did have a couple of questions about specific courses and what they kind of look like. So, one of our questions was, what does the genetic class teach? If one of you want to tackle that, and we also have one about whether or not we have the opportunity to study something like paleontology as well.
I think you wanted me to answer the genetics.
Let's tackle genetics. Yeah, that's fine, since you've taken it.
Genetics is like the last prerequisite you get or have to take before you go into the upper division. It's kind of a continuation of the sort of taste you get in 226. You start off the semester in 226 with a little bit of genetics, and that includes mitosis and meiosis, so those cellular processes of how cells divide, how genetic kind of variation is created through those processes, in addition to like doing Harvey Weinberg problems, which are more kind of ecologically focused genetics questions. Um, when you get into the actual genetics course, you're taking much deeper of a dive into those kinds of topics. And I don't remember everything exactly because it's been several years since I've taken the course, but we went again through mitosis and meiosis in pretty good detail, Harvey Weinberg, and then we kind of transitioned into these analyses of like, how do you determine if genes are linked in chromosomes? And there's kind of specific mathematics that we learn how to do in order to see whether or not, two genes are close to each other on an actual chromosome, which is really cool. And then talking a little bit about things like cancer genetics, what the difference is between like oncogenes and proto-oncogenes and stuff that it's been a while and I don't remember exactly, but that's kind of the framework of what that class covers. A lot of it is kind of the math behind how do we determine genetic patterns in the data that we have when we're working with, flies or plants or things that have very specific sort of traits um, that are kind of our only real way of measuring genetics, unless we pull out, a giant sequencer, which I don't think we have. So, yeah, that's kind of the rundown.
What was lab like?
Lab, I remember we did several different things. Um, I'm very grateful for genetics lab because my first year when I was in 225 and 226, we didn't have real lab because everything was online. We talked about, doing PCR and ELISA and gel electrophoresis and all those things, but we didn't actually get to do it. But when I got into genetics lab, we did all of those same things. So, for you guys, it would just be a reiteration and kind of a solidifying of your understanding of these lab processes. So we did do PCR. I believe we did ELISA. We for sure did gel electrophoresis. We did labs where we pulled out like pipe cleaners and like mapped out meiosis and mitosis, because meiosis especially is just, it can be very confusing. And so we're using a lot of different tools to solidify our concepts of the material. And then other labs where, we had actual samples of different plants or organisms and we're counting traits and then doing the math to see, are genes linked, or any other kind of information that we could find. So it was very applicable to what we were learning in the lecture.
Fantastic. And then the other one, right? Do we have opportunities for paleontology?
Boy, when I think about paleontology, I would probably have a student have conversations with Department of Earth Science,
Yeah, cool.
but not so much biology.
Yeah. Yeah. And I believe like to be a paleontologist, there's also extra levels of schooling as well. It's not something
You would go on to
individual.
grad school.
Yeah, exactly. There's a couple rapid fire ones. This one obviously varies person to person, but how difficult is the first year in biology?
I'm going to say that the transition from high school to college can be challenging for a good number of students. And I think the reason for that is several fold. One thing is that we expect a lot more than what you have in high school. Also, you do have, so for example, the course I'm currently teaching, for the first exam, some students struggle, so I allow them to do exam corrections. But usually for those exams after, I don't do that. And I know in high school, at least for my son is currently a junior in high school, that sometimes you can make up assignments at the end of the semester and still get full credit. That's typically not something we do at PLU. When things are due, they're due. And there's some, it depends on the faculty members. Some are more flexible than others. I think the other thing is that when you go to college, you're independent and you don't have guardians or parents telling you when to go to bed or when to do homework. And so I think it's a challenge to find that balance between how much I need to study and how much fun can I have. And I would suggest that don't get too involved in clubs your first semester. Really try to figure out how much time you need to study. The other thing that I would recommend, and it really, if we'd love to have you at PLU, but if you go to another institution like PLU, utilize the resources available to you. And what I mean by that is I offer, and every faculty member here has office hours. We kind of call them student hours. Office hours are kind of like, oh, I don't want to go to faculty members' office hours. So we call them student hours, but we set aside time during the week to meet with students. And I can count on my one hand how many students have actually seen me to go over biology problems. And it's very, very few. I can tell you that Daniel right now is currently an academic peer tutor. And every Tuesday and Thursday from 5 to 7 p.m., he is in the lobby of the Eureka Science Center willing to help students. And I can tell you there's very, very few students that go and approach him for help. And Daniel's an amazing student, so he can easily help his students. But I really encourage you to utilize the resources that are available to you, especially if you're struggling. Because especially at PLU, we're here to help you. We love teaching. That's why we're here. And so I really, really encourage you to seek help if you need it. But yeah, for some students, they just skate right through. But for some students, it's a challenge. And I think, again, it's kind of finding that happy medium of how much time you have to study, realizing that you're no longer in high school. And so we have greater demands for you, on you. And that also realizing you're independent. And you've got to also be able to figure out how to manage your time well.
Fantastic.
I can also kind of touch on that question. I felt my transition to be relatively easy, but I think in large part that was because I had taken several AP classes in high school, and that really prepared me well for coming. And I did both AP classes in humanities and science. I remember in conversations with advisors kind of for my first year, they actually recommended that I didn't skip the intro chemistry and biology sequences, even though I had credit for it through AP. And I'm glad I did that because it was just another chance for me to reiterate and kind of solidify my understanding of the material. I would not have been successful if I hadn't utilized my resources. I think my kind of main resources are as a professor. And so, I use those office hours when I needed. If I had questions, even like tiny ones on homework questions, I would go in and I would clarify, or I would be the one raising my hand in class. And I think that is a large reason why I have been so successful here. I also, it's my job to be available for students and to provide assistance. there's no getting around the fact that, biology and other science material is difficult to learn. There's a lot to learn. And especially when you get into the kind of technical details that we do, there's a lot that you have to kind of allow to settle and slowly digest. But it's not like we're throwing you to the wind and just kind of saying, hey, figure it out, good luck. No, we are here to help solidify that material. And we have people who teach this for a living, and students like me who, can maybe re-explain something to you in a different way that might click. And so all of these resources are there, and they're designed to smooth that transition. So yeah.
That's great. It looks like we're right at time. So as a last question, if you could describe the biology department in one word, what would it be? No, hard.
Yeah. I would say
I might say vibrant, but
Vibrant, okay.
yeah. I mean, it's just a great place to learn. We're really a group of not only faculty, but students that like to interact with one another. Yeah, it's a wonderful place to learn.
Nice.
I say wacky as kind of in the similar vein as vibrant. I just think the people and the professors especially are just such wonderfully unique personalities, especially when they're teaching classes about their like real fields of study. Like it shines through, and it's super fun. So
I often say that the natural sciences here at PLU have the most fun, and I really think it's true. So yeah, that's awesome. If any students attending here wanted to contact you, is that possible? And would you be able to share any contact information if so?
absolutely, I can put my email in the chat if that's helpful for people. And they can contact me with any questions regarding biology, humanities, pre-med. I've done a lot of things here, and I know at least a little bit about them. So
Perfect. Wonderful. Well, thank you all so much for attending, and thank you so much to our panelists for spending the evening with us. If any of you all have questions, right, feel free to continue this conversation. But yeah, again, thank you all so much, and I hope you all have a really lovely rest of your night.
Take care.
Yeah, thank you.